What's up, guys? This is The Broken Dead. Thanks for tuning in. Whether you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, or what other venue that I've uploaded this onto, but we're also available in podcast form. Hold on, I'm peeking a little bit, man. So you guys can find it just about everywhere you can find podcasts. Still waiting on the iTunes one to approve that. For whatever reason, they take forever. The other ones were like instantaneous or overnight or whatever. But anyways, you can find it on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. However you're supposed to say that. Anyways, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Lydia.
I'm Quin.
And we're here for the Broken Dead podcast / YouTube, Facebook show-ish thing. Yeah, so it's an after show, and we're going to talk about the Walking Dead. Check out the website. That's www.broken.pictures.com, and you can see what we got going on there. We got some discussion pages set up. You can eventually find the podcast there. I'm still working on that. But you can also join the conversation by going to Facebook, Broken Pictures Social, or Instagram and Twitter at broken_social. And if you like what we got going on, and you want to see us do more, hit us up on Patreon and hit that support tab, and it'll be at Broken Pictures, no space.
Spoilers.
So, couple little news points just from last week. Since it was the first one, I had a lot going on, just trying to put the set together and all this kind of stuff, and I was everywhere at once. And we forgot to acknowledge the death of Scott Wilson, which is huge, and I am embarrassed that we forgot to do that. He played Herschel, and he was a great actor. Everybody loves Herschel. But listening to other podcasts and other in memoriam things for him, and apparently he was just as genuine as Herschel. He was just a really great man. He was the kind of guy that would walk up to you and that, you were like, oh, this guy, he's a movie star, And he'd just walk up, put his arm around you and be like, hey, how you been?
That's really good to hear, because not all the time you meet someone famous like that and they're just kind of like, yeah, get out of here.
Exactly. Yeah, he was the kind of guy like would interrupt his day to see about you. And from what I understand, and these different people that like they just do a podcast or they're on crew or whatever, and everybody was important to him.
Chris Hardwick had some really kind words to say about Scott, and so he's going to be greatly missed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wish that we had the opportunity to meet him before his untimely passing. He was dealing with leukemia, and apparently people close to him kind of saw it coming. But he did, from what I understand, he recorded a flashback scene for this season, so we will get to see him on screen one more time. And a couple other things. Hate to move on from something like that, but the game company TellTale folded. Like, they've done Batman, just about everything, and they're Wolfman. They're really good from what I understand.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones. But they also did The Walking Dead and Clementine, her story and everything. And they got halfway through and TellTale folded. And so Robert Kirkman's company, Skybound, jumped in to help them complete Clementine's story. So that's good news.
That's really good news, because I've been playing them since the first one came out, and this has been kind of like, oh, well, now I'm just going to have this empty hole in my life. So it's good.
I have a clarifying question. Mm-hmm. What are y'all talking about?
It's a video game platform. TellTale is a video game company.
Okay, mm-hmm. And Clementine is who?
She's like one of the main characters from that.
Yeah.
So, like,
from The Walking Dead.
Well,
Yeah,
Okay.
she's
video-
Well, I was confused because
Yeah.
you're talking about lots of different video games, and Clementine is a character in Westworld. And so it threw me off for a second. I was like, what? You didn't say anything about Westworld's video game. Didn't know they would have a video game. That's pretty much...
Yeah, she's like a
Just killing
fan
people.
favorite from what I
yeah.
understand.
She in the very first game, she's just a little girl, and you are playing this guy Lee, and he just kind of happens to find her in her house. Then you go through everything, go through all of Atlanta, Savannah, and at the end of the story, on the first season, she has the choice. She has to either kill Lee or let him turn into a zombie because he saves her from this other guy. It's a whole thing, but like in all the games, you get to make choices and kind of choose your story. And then based on your choices, based on, the outcome. But some outcomes are just definite. Like Lee was going to die
Gotcha.
one way or another. And now
man.
she's like almost 20 and she's an adult in the final season of the game, and she's kind of in the exact same situation she was in because she has this little boy that she's watching after now.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That sounds
So,
pretty
full
interesting.
circle.
Yep.
Gotcha. Thanks for the clarification.
No problem. I mean, Quinn plays a lot more video games than I have a
I
chance
play
to.
a ton of video games.
I love video games, but I don't have time.
I keep trying to talk him into getting a PS4 so that we can play Crash Bandicoot. I super want one.
I want to play the last God of War and the new Spider-Man.
Yes, you need to play all of that.
Yeah.
So I guess what we're getting for Christmas is a PS4.
Unless you want to send us one.
Santa,
Patreon.
please be good to us.
I'm just kidding.
Santa, are you a Patreon right now?
Yeah, if PlayStation, if you want to sponsor The Broken Dead, hey, we're putting it out there into the universe.
I mean, I will
But-
straight up stream me playing some Crash Bandicoot.
Absolutely. Yeah, Ninja better watch out.
I don't know what that means, but I'm going to
He's
laugh.
a big streamer.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
And a pro player, but yeah.
Yeah, he'd probably smoke all of us. Excuse me. I'm clearing my throat here. I didn't mean to do that in y'all's ear. So another thing, The Walking Dead Day was Saturday. The comic book, 15 years since it came out. That is a big thing. I used to live in New York, and I follow some of the comic book shops that I used to go to, like Forbidden Planet and Midtown Comics. And they had this big deal where you get free comics and all this kind of thing. Oh, I was missing it today or Saturday.
Nobody can hear you with your hand in your mouth.
It wasn't in my mouth. It was just kind of like gracing,
Right there covering it.
gracing my lips.
Theater guy over here putting his hand in front of his mouth while he talks.
My bad. Sorry, guys. All right. So, and another thing, we're gonna there's a countdown. Rick and Maggie, after this week's episode, now only have 4 more episodes this season, and it looks like they're not slowing down. Like it doesn't look like they're gonna do a other person centric episode. Like it's full on Rick and Maggie until it's gone. Hold on.
Thanks a lot. Like you leaning off screen and turning off your mic doesn't hide that you're burping. Oh,
This
good
coffee
one
you made me.
there.
Yeah, you guys are
It is
supposed
kind
to
of
like
giving
fill
me
the gap.
indigestion there. We're like looking at you like, what is he doing? Was there like, was something wrong? Nope.
Sorry. I had coughed earlier and I didn't mute it, so I was like, well, I better mute it this time.
And then it was silent.
Yeah. All right, so good. What?
I
in
coughed
the-
right into it.
Wow. Sorry, people. I'll have to like edit that out or something. Like that's crazy.
I did it on purpose.
You should just bleep it and just let everybody think she just sweared.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's just
Just like
like
a really loud swear. I told him that if he bleeps anything that I say out, I want it to be the auga noise off of SpongeBob. Yeah, it's got to be that one.
I used to watch the Mickey Mouse Club when I was a kid. It was like the new Mickey Mouse Club, and then one of the hosts, like the adult hosts, like it basically his job was to make sound effects, and that's all he did. It was like, "Here's Fred," and he's like, "Auga."
Oh my gosh.
I'm super clipping over here. My bad, people. All right. So, all right. Let's go ahead and jump in. Unless you guys got something else, some other news items or.
No, that's about it for me.
All right. So, even though it's bittersweet that Rick and Maggie are both leaving, and like I was kind of wondering if they were gonna like sparse them throughout the season, but I mean, I know that Maggie, Lauren Cohan's character, is leaving before the first half of the season, but it looks like Rick is right along there with her.
It seems like to me it's gonna have to be something dramatic because they're not. They're talking up Carol and Jesus and all these other characters, but they're not slowing their pace or they're not kind of phasing them out or anything like that. It looks like it's going to be something dramatic.
Yeah.
Something really twisty.
Yeah,
That's
for sure.
what I'm really feeling. Like, I don't know who it would be, who would end up, like, getting them in a situation where they get either bit, killed, trapped, imprisoned, or something. But it's going to be someone you, like, least expect. And right now, I feel like it's going to be Michonne. Because Michonne's been kind of just, oh, everybody's fine. Yeah, my best friends. Maggie, give us food. Rick, I love you.
Oh, she's gonna like turn or something?
Like, maybe Michonne is like secretly Negan, the world needs you. Rick has been kind of like, and breaks him out and he starts busting people side the head again.
Maybe she actually starts to have some PTSD from Carl dying, like actually showing. It's like the world has just moved on.
Well, it is a very large time jump.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a year and a half
but still,
later.
I mean, if my son died a year and a half, I would not just be like.
Okay, well, it is the apocalypse. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to a certain extent, move forward and continue to keep yourself alive, which is what
Yeah.
Carl meant. And he wants something greater, so he wanted, from his death, it to project people forward.
Absolutely, I agree with you, but it doesn't seem to have had like an immediate effect. It had a huge immediate effect, but just like the lasting effect, just like I would like to see where like Michonne or somebody is still dealing with depression of Carl's absence.
Still though, it's not her first time this has happened to her.
Yeah. And that's my point. Is that I mean. It doesn't get easier, you know what I mean? You just learn to deal with it more, I guess.
I mean, I think we will to a certain extent, but you also have to think about, like, how boring of a show would that be if all we watched was them dealing with how Carl died? Like, I mean, that's just a really sad and somber show with a lot of tears.
Yeah, of course we don't want. That's not all we want to see, but I mean, it would add some interesting conflict to them layers, of them dealing with stuff as they're doing all this.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I do want to mention something about who we think is kind of what dramatic thing we think is going to happen with Maggie and Rick. I think right now there's no big bad. Negan is no longer a big bad. I think for now they're trying to bide their time and make him look like he's still the big bad and kind of talk up the leftover Sanctuary members who are bitter about everything and make them the big bad right now. But I think they're honestly going to introduce the Whisperers or another really large big bad. I mean, why else would they tease the helicopter so early on? Something is going to happen and there's a new group that is going to cause something to happen, and I think it'll be that.
Yeah. I mean, they teased the Whisperers in the
season finale
season teaser.
Oh, season teaser.
Yeah. In the season, in the season finale too. I forgot. But I don't think the helicopter is related to the Whisperers, though.
I don't think it is either, but I think that's how they're gonna tie it together
like
somehow.
Coming from two different angles.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
That it's going to bombard them and it will be so great. We've only taken on one group at a time, one big bad at a time. But if they introduce two big bads, Rick and Maggie might die.
Yeah, and they can handle it because there's 5 different groups now.
Yeah.
Speaking of 5 different groups, I am a little disappointed that we haven't seen the leader of Oceanside. I can't remember her name. We haven't seen her very much. I mean, she was getting her hand stitched up, but we never even got a zoom in on her face. Like, they're just kind of shying away from it. It almost makes me think that the actress herself might be pregnant because they did the same thing with Rosita and the same thing with
That's a big job.
No, I'm calling it.
Maybe she's the big bad, and
she's
they're
not the big
ready to reveal it yet.
That's a bigger jump than her just being pregnant.
Or maybe they're just kind
Sonequa
of
Martin Green. That's the other one that I was trying to think of.
maybe they're just kind of keeping it on like the core group, the original core group for the most part, just until Rick and Maggie leave. Then they're like, oh hey, remember all these other characters, and then start fleshing them out.
That sounds like something they would do.
Yeah. When they should be in process fleshing people out. Mm-hmm. Which they're doing better with like Carol and Daryl and other people like that.
Carol and Daryl. Together forever.
All right. So yeah, the highlights. Another thing we forgot to get into last week is the new opening. What did you guys think about the new opening? Like it, love it, lump it?
I like it.
Lump it? I've never heard that one.
Really?
No. Okay. Clever. Cute. Okay. I loved it. I love that it's different, but it still seems very similar to the old one. Whereas the old one was mostly real photographs, real images, and this one is cartoonish CGI. I don't know what that is. I'm not
almost
a
like
designer or whatever.
booky.
Yeah, very comic booky. And in every single scene, they show new growth in some form or fashion. And I just really enjoy that. It shows, I think it's speaking true to what the show is going to be. Mm-hmm. And it's not about death and decay anymore. It is about what death and decay brought, and that's new growth.
Yeah. And that's a big cycle of nature too. Is that, you know, like I did. Do you remember we used to work at Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art, and we took this course out in the garden area on one of the trails, and they were talking about how they have to burn it off every once in a while to keep new growth coming in, and that's destruction is actually part of the nature's process.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting to add that element into The Walking Dead. But,
since now they can, redirect herds with loud noises.
Yeah. And I was going to get into that in a second, but they are also naming herds kind of like tropical storms. Like there's Horatio, they mentioned Margaret, which was weird because that's Maggie's name.
Yeah, I wonder how they get to pick, like, oh wow, this is a big bad herd, I want it to be named after me. Like, yeah. Or like, how do they pick the names? Is it drawn out of a hat?
I don't know.
Or do they do it by
That'd be
tropical storms that they
hilarious.
had that year?
That's a good
Maybe
idea.
they're also naming tropical storms the same.
Yeah. But that's an interesting thing because like when Rosita is informing Rick of where they're at and all that kind of stuff, like she like kind of reiterates what the names are, and he's like the big one. She's like Margaret.
I almost wonder, like, no show, no comic, nothing is done out of happenstance. Everything is controlled. I wonder what those names really do symbolize and in what time period they were important, if they're authors, if they're big characters that were important in the time that they're trying to portray.
Yeah, I kind of did. I immediately got the Maggie reference, possibly with Margaret, but like Horatio, I was trying to kind of Google that a little bit, and I didn't get very far. But it's like a ancient Roman type thing or whatever.
Wasn't there a Shakespeare play with
Yeah,
something?
Hamlet.
Yeah.
And Horatio was like the I can't remember, but anyways, I read it last night and I'm blanking on it.
What are you even good for?
Reading my notes.
I'm gonna have to start doing the Googling myself.
Yeah. So anyways, okay. So, so we start out the episode and Rick is bringing Negan up to speed. Seems like it's been a while since the last episode because last episode they were talking about starting construction on the bridge.
It's been a month and a half.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 35 days.
Yeah.
Isn't that what they said?
What?
He literally sat down and said it's been 35 days.
Oh.
Isn't that what he said? I mean, didn't he say that? I mean, he said 35 days. Like, and then again, I'm pretty sure another character said a month and a half. Like Eugene or somebody said that.
Oops.
All these notes and you couldn't get that one.
Well, that was the first one. I was still getting settled.
Oh, yeah.
Another thing I noticed is Jerry got a girl.
Yeah, not only just a girl, but she was the one in last season who had a really big impact on the kingdom getting away from the Simon and his group. She had a really big part in that. Kind of stood up and was like, "No, we're not about to take this." So she does. He doesn't have just any girl. Like he's got a bad A with him. Like I love it. That's the only relationship I've seen so far that I approve of.
They could probably single or double-handedly with Jerry's axe take on the take out all the walkers by themselves and all the big bads and just back to back.
Well, I've never seen her kill a walker, so I can't say that for her. Jerry
she would rally the troops.
The dead ones?
I don't know. I was just saying.
The dead walkers with me.
Jerry, King of the Dead. like Ash.
I would watch that version of
Ash versus Evil.
No, what's the Hades? If Jerry was Hades, like I would so watch that, like
on
King
Hercules?
of the Underworld. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. And
Can you
then
imagine
Ezekiel
with
would
his
have to
hair
be
on
Zeus.
fire?
It's like,
He would be Zeus for sure.
I'm gonna turn my gain down a little bit. All right, so Rick is walking through the construction site, and apparently Eugene is the foreman, and he's briefing Rick on all this stuff. And there's a lot of missable details that they jump.
Yeah, because you can't understand a word Eugene says.
Because it's all rhythm and rhyme and backwards.
Oh, see there now, Rick. It's going to be okay.
It's a rocker and a Wilco.
Exactly. I can't understand. I have to have the subtitles on when Eugene talks. I can't do it.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Yeah, I turned the subtitles on because of Eugene last night. Because I was like, man, he's talking fast. I've never known a country boy to talk that fast.
But he's not a country boy. It sounds so.
What's his name?
He's supposed to be, but it's terrible.
Josh McDermott.
Yeah.
Guy King of the Hill.
That's what I said. Boomhauser.
Yep.
Yes. I literally texted my sister the other day and was like, what is the guy on King of the Hill who cannot talk right? And she told me, I was like, yes, that's who Eugene sounds like.
That's pretty great. I wonder if that was one of his inspirations.
It had to have been.
Had to.
So, he says, he tells Rick that they've got a makeshift levee up, and that's holding the water back so they can put the post in the ground and everything for the new bridge. And that the spring runoff is causing problems with the levee, and they've only got about 6 to 9 more days. So there's a countdown. And then Rosita comes up, talks about the Walker herds, and she's, that they've got names. Horatio is about 100 plus, and Margaret is 5 times bigger.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like, okay, I have a couple questions about that statement. First of all, Rosita, baby girl, where did you get those sweatpants? Because those were cute, and I need to know where you're shopping in the apocalypse, because I'm going to need the name. Yeah, like, what in the world is she doing? Those are some cute sweatpants. I'm going to need me some. Second of all, how are there still so many walkers alive? I don't understand.
Well, because people are dying all the time.
And I get that, but most of the time now when people die, like, we kill them. Like, we just, like, put a little knife back here. Yeah. So I'm not understanding how in one area, in one place, I mean, I get it that they're really close to Washington, D.C., one of the most populated places in the United
if they're
States.
coming
I get
from
that.
New York, I mean, that's what, it's like
They're what?
8 million people.
They're coming from New York.
I'm just saying if they had
That's a long walk for some walkers.
Well, it's only like 2 hours drive, but I mean, it's been years, so maybe that...
Is it really only a 2-hour drive? I do not believe you at all.
It's only a couple hours.
From Washington, D.C. to New York.
Something like that.
Feel like-
I never made the trip, but I know people who have. When I lived in New York, I didn't have a car.
I'm really upset because I had a layover in New York, and had I known, I would have missed that flight. I take that back. I had a layover in Washington. I would have missed my flight, hit Washington, and then went to New York.
and just
I've
told
never
your
been.
boss, sorry.
He told us we could miss the flight.
Oh. Well, dang.
I had to work the next
what
day,
are
though.
you doing?
Yeah, I don't even know why I'm here right now. No, I'm just kidding.
She's actually looking this up.
But they always, like in other zombie shows, when zombies run out of food in, highly populated areas, and
It's way different, isn't it?
It's a 10-hour drive.
Well, no. See, that's if you don't take tolls. If you take tolls, it's like 4 hours.
Okay, so that's 4 hours much different than 2 hours.
It's only twice. It's
Okay, well, I'm not paying tolls, so that's a 10-hour drive. I ain't about to pay no
You
money.
gotta drive through back Jersey to get there.
Yeah. What were you saying? I'm sorry. I super interrupted.
Zombies are looking for food, and we've seen them in the past. They eat deer.
Foraging and
They're nomads.
planting crops and stuff.
Just like pointing at deer, like,
Be careful, we might shoot a kid while we're trying to eat the deer. Carl.
Poor Carl.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Rip Carl.
I understand, like, there are still a lot of dead people on the planet, but it just seems like a really concentrated amount around the people that we're following. It just seems odd to me. And I get it, I guess, because we do have we're involved with 5 different groups right now. That's a lot of people that we have in these communities, and I get that, and all of their families, and you think about all of it. But it just still seems really concentrated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, they are in D.C., which is a very, very populated area. And
But where am I going to go away from if I live in Washington, D.C. and the apocalypse happens?
But, I mean, D.C. is a very populated area. But then you've got groups like Alexandria that just never really went out too much except to find other people. And they weren't just, like, out slaughtering group, like Rick's group, that just, like, would plow through something to get somewhere. But not so much anymore, apparently. They run from walkers last episode, but...
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but at the same time, if the apocalypse starts happening and I live in Washington, D.C., guess where I'm leaving? Washington, D.C., because I'm not about to stay there while the apocalypse is going on. To me, that seems like one of the most dangerous places.
Because you would die. And so a lot of people weren't that smart, and that's why a lot of people are dead.
But like the beginning of Fear the Walking Dead, y'all watched that, I'm sure.
Barely.
Yeah. But like at the beginning of that, when like the zombies and walkers, there were zombies, I don't know why I called them something different. But when they started showing up, people are like, what is with you? Why'd you bite me? Type of thing. And then that's just kind of how the infection started.
That's true. That's true. Because, I mean, they straight up made stupid decisions, but no offense, their characters were pretty stupid. So.
Yeah.
They just were dumb
Which
people.
is why we stopped watching.
Like, you're trying to tell me that Morgan linked up with them and they made it from L.A. to Mexico and now they're close to Washington? Like, that is a long journey.
Well, I mean, Eugene
I'm not
and
following
Abraham
it with
and
them.
Rosita made it
From where?
from Texas to...
Okay, Texas.
DC.
Yeah. Okay,
They
Texas.
had like an armored truck and guns.
Oh, I straight up missed that part. So, are you talking
That's
about?
true.
Are you talking about Eugene and Abraham?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So they had a lot.
Because
They had a lot.
he's
And they had Rosita. So literally, like whatever.
She's blowing stuff up along
She
the
just
way.
like
and
has
Abraham's
her
just plowing
sweatpants
them.
and she's like, "What's up? I'm here to kill zombies."
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just saying
They were a
it's
pretty
not very
special group.
plausible. Which it is a show about the dead. So what?
Yeah.
I don't have very much room to critique.
Yeah, and some things don't make sense. Like, obviously, all the liquids and these are not freshly dead people for some of them, and it's like they would not. How can they? Like, if you trying to break down the science, like how can they operate if their brain has gone away, like dried up and rotted out? But then you've got like last episode where you see like marble and heavily architectured glass floor is just brittle after a few years.
I cannot pull this mic close enough to my mouth when I say, if the zombie apocalypse were to happen, the first thing that would decay is your gums and your teeth would fall out of your head. I don't know why these walkers have teeth that are perfectly fine and can bite through flesh. It is not plausible.
Well, I mean, I guess the entire... You just destroyed the entire genre. So
I know.
we'll see you guys never. So we're done.
No, I completely agree about the museum thing. Like, I understand that, like, maintenance happens, but maintenance is cleaning the glass. Like, they're not doing anything to make the glass stronger. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way that it just would have collapsed like that.
Yeah, and that's probably plexiglass. And, like, when they make things like that, especially for public use, like it has to be just like ridiculously
And in one of the
strong.
most popular national museums, I mean, it's a national museum in Washington, D.C. I can only imagine how fortified that is
Yeah,
and how
you got
strong it
tons
is.
of
They
tourists.
probably never really close it down for maintenance like that. And all of that glass in the building is probably bulletproof.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they had, like, you saw the bodies and everything that was, like, messed up in there. Like, I want that story. But,
The
you
spider walker.
like, there were people that were living in there before somebody was like, oh, I'm not going to tell everyone I got bit, and just went ham.
Right.
So obviously somebody knew, like, hey, this museum can really help us survive. Why don't we just stay here? And it's probably bomb-proof.
Yeah,
whatever reason.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that you keep the seeds to the next generation in there without some form of protection. Like, they didn't, like, they had a lock on the door for seeds, let alone the glass that's protecting, like, a bottom layer of humans.
It's like, how do you get to the seeds if the glass is fragile?
But I do understand also, we're not taking into account the weight of what they rolled across there.
True.
That probably was so heavy.
I mean, even if it was a ton, I mean, think about, like, you've got hundreds. I mean, how many people could fit across that floor? Hundreds of people.
Well,
like,
I'm sure it has a capacity, but I mean,
think
you think
about,
that's
like,
probably pure iron that they
multiply
rolled
that
across that.
nah, maybe the wheels or whatever. So, I mean, like, okay, say it's a ton or maybe two. I mean, how many, you got to think about, like, okay, let's say 50 to 100 people can fit across that floor and divide each person, let's say they weigh 200 pounds.
Why don't we just take an elephant?
Two
That seems much more realistic instead of trying to divide all the weight of these people. Like, if you take an elephant and walk it across the floor,
How is that realistic? Like, when is an elephant going to be at the museum?
Because Ezekiel got a new pet.
He would.
I feel like that's not that far-fetched to actually have an elephant in the museum. I'm sure there's mammoths there.
How would you stop an elephant from getting bit? Like, it's just so big. Anyways, that's, neither here nor there. Anyways, we're into our episode, but barely into the episode, so we need to get moving. All right, so Eugene also says that Savior's been walking off the job, 6 in the past month, according to Eugene. Alexandria is also supplying the camp and the sanctuary with food, which is why they're running thin. So Michonne goes to Maggie to ask for food. And in the middle of all the briefing, we find out that Enid has a new job. She's got some on-the-job training for her medical career. And there's a bug going around Alexandria that could potentially be something that we see in the future, unless they're going to just kind of glaze over it like it's no big deal. But remember back in the prison, like when a bug hit, like people were dying.
Literally, people got burned to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that was a huge deal. And now I guess that they've moved on to where it's just like, meh.
Sometimes I think about the prison and I've forgotten about it for some reason, and then I remember that, like, they had livestock at the prison. Like, they had pigs. I'm not really sure why they don't have hogs.
So long.
Like, where are the hogs? Like, I'm just saying that if there was an apocalypse, I can guarantee the one thing that would be alive is some hogs from Louisiana making their way up to D.C. Like,
I mean, think
there
about,
should
like,
be hogs everywhere.
Think about, like, all these animal species that are just spreading and infiltrating, like pythons in Florida. It's like, that would be like almost more of a threat than the walkers. You know?
I want to go to Florida. That's all that says.
You know?
I mean, like, never mind.
Yeah, but, I mean, which is why in some of the southern states you can kill a hog and not have to tag it or claim it or anything like that because they're a nuisance.
Yeah, they're not. They're,
We're not worried about them going away because they just multiply. You know. So I mean, if they were unchecked, I mean that's a very good point.
That's why I'm not understanding that there are only horses and horses that they have to train again. Like, where did you get this still alive horse? Like, have they forgotten that winter happens and you have to supplement your horses because the grass dies? You have to buy feed for a horse to live through all this time. So a horse has been pinned up.
The corn. That's all that corn went.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
They're making ethanol with.
I don't know if you see my eyes rolling, but yeah. Anyway, off subject again. I'm just destroying
Yeah.
this theory.
Which I mean, and this is one of my this is another rabbit trail, but this is one of my gripes from last week. Like the whole thing with the blacksmith's son could have been avoided had somebody just said, you know what, that's not Maggie's fault. We were away, and that dude went back for a horse, and that's how he got bit.
Boy.
He was doing a good thing. Why?
The 12 of us didn't decide to just kill 6 walkers and move on with our life. We were
Yeah,
going to leave everything there like a bunch of dummies, and then we just walk back over and kill him. And then we're like, oh no, he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been years since everything happened. You would really think that people would make dumb choices.
Right, exactly.
Well,
like
he's a
somebody
kid, yeah.
deciding that they should go off in the woods and be on watch. Like, that's so stupid. Come on. That is exactly how you get people killed.
Yup.
We'll get into that in a
drinking.
minute.
All right, so yeah, so apparently the sanctuary sent some ethanol to the hilltop, and it never arrived. So we've got the mystery of like where it went, and all this kind of stuff, and to just kind of follow that thread through, they find out that the sanctuary people who are the saviors or whatever who were supposed to deliver it. They had families and everything, and they weren't the type of people to just up and disappear. And so, excuse me, man, I gotta stop drinking that coffee. But
It's giving me the chills.
so yeah, they weren't the type of people to just up and disappear. So it's missing somehow, and then Maggie decides all that kind of stuff. I feel like I'm rushing because there's so much to get through right now, so I'm just kind of jump through here.
I feel like that point makes itself though, like, hey, they didn't just go AWOL, like something happened.
Yeah, and they got to figure out what happened.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
To me, that just makes it even more soap opera-y, like, what? They're missing?
Yeah, and it's how they show it.
Their
That makes
delivery.
their delivery is what makes it soap opera-y.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's not just like they used to do kind of like horror genre, which is just like camera, just like pans and whips and like I think when they did that once last season, we were just like, what the heck was that? And then you went back and watched like the first season, and you're like, man, they used to do that all the time.
Yeah. Maeve was watching it, and I rewatched an episode with her, and I was like, what the heck? What?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they moved away from it so much. I felt like they were just getting back to it, but now it's just like, da-da-da. Like, I feel like they could zoom in so close to their face, and it's like, what do you mean you're my sister? I mean, like, that is exactly the vibe that I'm getting.
Game of Thrones.
No, it's just every soap opera ever on TV.
He's still alive.
It started with Star Wars. They just got it from there.
Yeah. It's the space opera.
But I feel like with them not showing what's happening to them, and I feel like with these last few episodes that Maggie and Rick are going to be, there's going to keep being like a couple months, 6 months, time skips to where like by the end of it, because it's been a year and a half, it might be like 2 years by the time they end up leaving, and they don't want to take away from them while they're here. And because once they go, I'm once again, fleshing them characters out. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
what I feel
very
like.
possible. Yeah, that they just continue the time jumps.
Yeah, that makes sense. And they probably need to get the communities to a certain point in the plot line before they can exit Rick and Maggie.
Right, absolutely.
They
And
just
plus,
kinda
like,
jump
I mean,
into
from
it.
episode 1 to episode 2, I mean, we're 35 days in. Like, that's a large jump episode to episode for us.
And something cool I just thought about is that if they're doing these time jumps, that leaves some space for flashbacks that they might just do like a one-off episode, come back and do something. That'd be cool.
Who, Rick and Maggie?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Assuming they survive. They won't.
I agree. I don't think they will either.
All right, so Aaron, man, we are so off right now.
That's all right.
we need to get into it. So so then we go to the bridge, and they're making significant progress, and Aaron tells Daryl, a story about Grace's diaper exploding all over him. So we find out, what's up with Grace. Aaron's still taking care of her. And he tells Daryl, you'd make a good dad someday. So is that foreshadowing now that Aaron has had his arm removed and he's not really going to be able to pick up Grace very well?
That's what I said, and you said no. I literally said that earlier.
Well, I rewatched it, and maybe your thoughts were still banging around in my head.
Yeah, because literally I was like, well, maybe he's just going to give the baby to Daryl because he can't take care of her that well anymore. We literally discussed this, and you said no.
And then and also last season and before that, like they kind of established like the Uncle Daryl thing with Judith.
Yeah.
Like he's really good with Judith. Mm-hmm. So I could see him kind of taking Grace. And
maybe he needs Grace now.
That would be a huge character development point for Daryl, because people change when they become parents. And if Daryl had a child to take care of, like he would no longer just be like, I don't need none of this, I'm gone.
Unless he goes to the other extreme where he's the dictatorship portion where he rips somebody's throat out to protect his child.
I could see that for sure too.
I mean, there's so many variables that play into that.
Yeah, and because Daryl is just enough off balance to where he would.
It can go either way.
Yeah,
It's really
barely holding on to the social skills there.
We've just seen the social skills. Like, I don't know. Those social
he's
skills
learning
literally just happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that could be a huge thing for Daryl. So and then immediately we find out that Justin, the Russian from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
And also Charles Lane from Black Sails.
Mm-hmm. He's having a moment right now.
Yeah.
He's a big dude.
Yeah.
It's weird. Easy now. It's easy. It's easy seeing. It's difficult seeing him without a Russian accent because we're still trying to get through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and it's difficult right now. But
hey, we only have 5 episodes left. Okay.
That's like a whole nother subject of why that's difficult.
Yeah. That's oh my god.
Talk about soap opera.
Yeah, shows that have fallen off.
Anyway.
Justin's a jerk, and he's about to go spank Henry or whatever, and Daryl confronts him, and then Justin just straight up punches Daryl, and then they get into it. And I'm wearing my Fight or Die Daryl shirt, if you can see it, because Daryl got in so many fights this episode.
He put a note that said the new Jared ? And I really hope so, because I really hope he dies the exact same way.
Yeah. Is this guy the new Jared? Like he's the new asshole that we love to hate. It's just what?
I bleeped it for you.
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I would love to jump to the next point.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. I mean,
so
that's why you have a copy of the notes.
Well,
she keeps looking at mine.
Yeah, that's easy. I haven't even changed pages yet. So Rick, Daryl, Carol, they all meet, and they're talking about or Daryl's like, Rick, you're not listening to me, And I really liked how Carol stepped up and was like, hey, I'm in this trio, like I'm leading the sanctuary. You're not about to have a meeting about my people without me. Because I could very easily see how it was just a meeting between Daryl and Rick, but Carol was just like, "No, I'm up in here. Here's my opinion. You need to listen because I'm saying what I've got to say." And to me, that's old Carol, and I really appreciated that view of her again.
By the way, all this happened in Lydia's mind before they were on screen. None of this happened on screen.
What do you mean?
Look, that entire story where Carol was like, "I'm up in here."
Oh, yeah.
None of that happened on screen.
Well, I'm just saying, her presence being there, I'm sure it was not requested.
Well, not necessarily. That's it.
You think Rick and Daryl were like, "Oh, hey, Carol, let's go talk about this stuff that just happened"?
I could see Rick
I'm
doing
gonna
that.
go and say no. He can't even talk to his best friend, let alone Carol.
Maybe they needed an interpreter between their man grunts.
A mediator.
Yeah.
A man grunt. Yeah. I don't know. I just really appreciated that Carol's coming back strong, and I appreciate what King Ezekiel has done to uplift her as a woman, as a leader character in the show right now.
Yeah, and how they're writing her is very good too.
Absolutely.
While we're there, we also see Georgie's book on Rick's desk. And that was one of the questions I had is with this whole Maggie Rick situation where she's kind of out for him, secretively out for him or whatever, if she shared the stuff, that secret meeting with Georgie and all that kind of stuff, or she just kind of held that back for the Hilltop, and that's how the Hilltop got so prominent. But apparently not. She's fully sharing, and Rick's got a copy.
Where'd you get the 3-ring binder, man?
They found a Staples somewhere.
Just had those printed up.
Yeah, it's DC. And everything's
That's
within
accurate.
reach.
And I'm sure that probably didn't get stolen that much. So when people are looting, who goes after those things?
Exactly.
You know, surely there's plenty left.
Unless you're like Eugene or Tyrese or somebody that likes to carry just like tools on your belt, and you need 3 rings to kind of clip them on there.
Hey, that's actually not a bad
What
idea.
are you doing robbing a Staples? Well, I have to do this so when we, kill all the zombies, we can establish a new world.
The binder.
This is a wrench zombie. Hold on. Click, click. This is a hammer zombie. So, then we get Tammy Rose, who is the blacksmith's... What?
Could you get a more, trailer trash name? Tammy Rose, unnecessarily pieced together, and her husband Earl, who apparently didn't have to die. I mean, goodness gracious, Tammy Rose, come on. And their name's Kevin. Their son's name is Kevin, just normal
No,
as
it
can
was
be.
Ken.
Kenneth. Is it Kenneth?
Ken, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's a little, that's all
They're
right.
trying to upscale a little bit.
Yeah, trying to move on up in the
Break the
world.
chain. I can respect that.
Did she seek out Earl, based on his name? My name's Tammy Rose. I have to marry you. Your name is Earl.
It's like
Anyway.
magnetism.
Yeah.
Anyways,
All people named Tammy Rose and Earl, please get offended at that. I'm just kidding.
so she's trying to talk to Jesus. She wants to see her husband, and Michonne over here goes talk to Jesus, pitches government to Jesus, and then Jesus goes talk to Maggie about it. Then we get our Jadis / Anne is her new name, or her real name.
Something I wanted to say about the Tammy Rose thing. If you didn't recognize her, that's what's her name again? The actress that plays her, who was in Under Fire.
Brett. I forget her last name.
Oh,
She was Grace
yeah.
Under Fire.
Yeah, Grace Under Fire. So she's a pretty
Pretty known. Yeah, she's
I
a
don't know
great.
how to say it.
She's a great actress in comic. I used to watch that show in the 90s. It was really funny.
So just FYI, that if you didn't recognize her, that's who that is. I'm going to give you a name here in a second while he's talking about this other stuff.
Yeah, so then we get our Jadis / Anne and Gabriel moment where she's putting the moves on him.
Brett Butler.
Brett Butler. I knew it was a B. So Anne is putting the moves on Gabriel, and she kind of puts it out there, and he kind of pulls back a little bit, and it says basically that's my job to be there, even though she's like, I want to show you how
Oh,
much
you're talking
I
about the
appreciate it.
organist. You're talking about when she's drawing the picture.
Yeah, when she's drawing
okay.
a picture.
I thought you were talking about...
Yeah, this is before things got froggy. And then Jesus visits Maggie. She's playing with little Herschel. Apparently they're still in contact with Georgie because he... Yeah, and he's a cute little Asian baby.
He's literally the
got
most
Glenn
precious
all over
thing.
him.
Or that other Asian dude who was in the preview for next episode.
Yeah, it was like- I saw that
are we
and I was
really
like,
sure
what?
that's Glenn's baby? At this point in time, I'm
Who is
kind of
this dude?
confused.
Yeah, so anyways, they're apparently still in contact with Georgie. Jesus mentions the twins bringing letters and stuff like that, and she's trying to get Maggie to join them, so that could potentially be an exit for Lauren Cohan's character, because they said that they were going to leave it open-ended, so that could there's an option right there. But he talks her into letting Tammy go see Earl. And she does. Turns out Earl's a lot like Herschel with the drinking problem and stuff like that. And Maggie sees it, starts to change her mind. And then we jump to Rosita and the Savior, who apparently was the one that cut her face, working together and blowing some rocks out of a trails. And that you act like you really wanted to say something.
I didn't.
Okay. So yeah, that alerts the Walker herd Horatio to as planned to go in this other direction, and so they've got it set up where they've got Eye in the Sky and Tara's up there watching the herds, and she radios down to Jerry to signal the first one. That kind of diverts him away from the explosion, and then there was another one that was supposed to go off to divert them away from the lumber site, and that one never went off. And come to find out, it was Justin.
Yeah, like,
And,
don't be stupid,
yeah.
y'all. Like, that's just
Yeah.
asking to get somebody killed.
Yeah, and
Or lose an arm.
Yeah. So things go down, and of course Daryl finds out who it is, and excuse me, good gravy. Sorry, guys. So his excuse is that the walkie didn't turn on, that it wasn't juiced up, and Daryl's like, it's solar powered. So
He's like, nope,
Yeah.
nope, you're getting punched in the face.
yeah, so they get into it again, and Daryl almost kills him. Carol has to stop it, and basically is kind of sounded like Michonne, where she's like, hey, we'll deal with it, but not like this. Mm-hmm.
Like, this isn't the Old West. You just don't get to punch people to death.
Mm-hmm.
Out of saloons and all that.
Yeah, and they're
With
I
Tammy
like
Rose
that.
in the background.
I really like that they're leaning into the Western colonial side.
Yeah, and Chris Hardwick keeps mentioning that in The Talking Dead, keeps saying that it feels very Western-y, feels very like, what's the noise? Can you make the noise like, like tumbleweeds blowing over
I
here?
can't- oh,
Wow, wow.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. One guy makes all of those noises with his mouth.
Really?
Yeah, I've seen the video where he makes
Jeez.
every single one of the noise. All of them
Like
by
the
himself.
spurs and everything, like ka-chunk, ka-chunk.
He does make the whip noises. I doubt Spurs. They actually make that noise when they walk. So
Yeah.
there's that.
But yeah, it harkens back to these old westerns, and even season 1, where the poster was Rick on a horse entering Atlanta with just wide open roads. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I like
Another Dixie Chick song.
that. Wide open spaces. Yeah,
Let them sing it. That's all right.
I was about to say, I know you like how I did that.
Yeah, great tell. There we go.
Excuse me. All right, so. All right, yeah. Y'all helping. Y'all got notes too? Well, you can jump in at any time.
Well, we don't know where you're at. We're trying to let you keep going with the way you're going. Alden. We're talking about Alden. We already talked about that.
Maggie visits Earl and wants to hear about the drinking problem. Earl owns his mistake, but then Maggie just kind of like very gruffly was like, "Did I make a mistake by not killing you?" And he's like, "No."
No, I think that he wasn't owning his mistake. Cause he was like, "Why would you spare me?" And
Well,
instead of her saying, "Oh, this is why I spared you. You should learn from your mistake," she was just like really stupid about it.
Yeah,
Really
but
prideful about it.
I think he was owning it because she said thank you after he told his story and was about to leave, and he's like, "Maggie," he's like, "Why didn't you hang me like you did?"
Right. I'm not saying that he's not owning it. Before he did own it, but in that in that last point.
I rewatched it last night, so I'm like lining out the details. He asked her.
So I guess that makes my opinion invalid.
Kind of. I was going to let you have an opinion after you had the facts, and that
Okay.
matters. So yeah, so he stops her and was like, "Hey, why didn't you hang me like you did Gregory?" And she said, "Well, something to the effect that Gregory tried to kill me." He said, "Well, I did too, and that's in me. That wasn't just the alcohol." And she's like, "Well, did I make a mistake?" And he's like, "No." So instead of just being like, "Hey, that's like," she was not empathetic at all. Like, even though you could tell it was getting to her, and he's a lot like Herschel and all that kind of stuff, like she still had the walls up big time.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't feel like we're disagreeing. What I'm saying is, like, in that sentence, it was more to me than him owning his mistake. Like, he truly wanted to know that someone wanted him alive, and like, she could have said something like, "Well, you're our only blacksmith." She could have said anything, but instead she was just like, "I'm not even going to validate that question." And to me, that showed a really, really harsh Maggie, because she could have said, "I didn't have another rope. she could have said anything
That would've
really
been even
hateful or anything rude if she was trying to be like that. But she just didn't say anything, which makes me think that she was shocked by the question, because if that's in him, based on that, like, how can she trust that anyone doesn't have that in them? You know, to me, it showed another layer of, like, just because you were drunk, like, what does that say is in anyone? If we all have the ability to try and kill someone when we're angry and intoxicated, like, what does that mean for the world? I think she was just shocked and didn't have an answer.
I don't know. I think that actually makes him, to me, it makes him more like Herschel, because Herschel was fully aware that when I drink, this part of me comes out, and so I can't drink, and I think that was acknowledging that that side of him. All right, so I had to take a little break, but in case things look a little different, I forgot to turn a light on for the first half, so don't we look pretty now? So where were we?
Justin pops off at Rick. Or before
Tara reports that Horatio is headed toward the bridge.
Yeah.
We've been
We
past that.
did cover that. That's right. Yeah. So Alden tells Rick that the Savers were supposed to deliver it. Some had families, didn't go AWOL.
Talked about
All
that.
right. The herd didn't divert from the lumber site. Walkers arrive at the lumber site. Daryl goes ham on some of them. Or no, not yet. Not yet. He's just kind of like clearing them out a little bit, and then one of the other Saver guy, I don't know his name, the one that's always got something in his mouth.
Like a toothpick thing?
Yeah. There's like that actor's like, I gotta have something that separates me from everybody else. So I'll
Gabriel
have something
got
in
a
my
hat,
mouth.
so.
Yeah.
He's the
and
man in black.
Apparently he asked for that hat, and does he not look super cool? Like, he's fully leaning into this Western priest thing with one blind eye, and it, like
He does look kind of cool, I'm not going to
does.
lie. He kind of looks cool.
Yes. He's the man in black.
So the Savior with the thing in his mouth, freaks out and drops the log.
For a good reason. He literally says, run. Like, Daryl screams, get out of
Yeah,
here.
but that's true. But
He says bugger off, actually. Bug off, or whatever he says. Like, something
Like he's
super out of
British or something.
character, yeah.
yeah, bugger off, gents. Bugger off, gents.
Yeah. So, I mean, of course he dropped everything and
but
ran out
I mean,
of there.
you don't just drop it while people are under it, you know. So then
Yeah.
Aaron, being the guy he is, pushes the other guy out of the way, and it falls on him. And then Aaron's under it. They're trying to get it off of him, and the walkers are just coming in. And Aaron tells him, just leave me. And of course Daryl's like, this is my buddy. You know, we had spaghetti together. And
That's an unbreakable bond right there.
Exactly, yeah. He was the one that made Daryl feel welcome at Alexandria. Like, went out of his way and, you know, gave him a bike and everything. I mean, that's bond right there. And so Daryl just pulls out his custom-made jiu-jitsu knives and goes to town. Apparently, Norman Reedus did have these knives, like, specially made.
For Daryl or for him?
For Daryl. So, like, they've got, like, this
Daryl.
covers on his hands or whatever, and they come down and come across his forearm so he can stab as well as slice.
That is
And,
cool.
Yeah, and that little scene where they're over the top and he's just, like, doing his little dance or whatever, apparently that was just, like, completely impromptu. Like, there was no coordination or anything like that.
Because
Like,
he did it at home 1,000 times.
probably. Got these cool knives, and this is how it's going to go.
It's choreographed in his head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was a pretty cool scene, though, and it worked out, I think.
Not for Aaron.
No. Good point. But Daryl had his moment, and that's all that counts, right?
So did Enid after poor what happened to Aaron.
Yeah. So she brings him in, and Enid's like, what? Oh, crap. I almost cussed just then. I'm glad I didn't.
So now let's point it out that you almost cussed.
Dumb. Anyways, yeah, we're trying to keep it PG-13 over here. So, So yeah. They get him out, and Aaron's arm is ridiculously gross.
I didn't think it was gonna look that bad.
Yeah.
Like I kind of expected there to be like, oh, it's just broken or whatever, maybe a bone popping out. But it was mangled. Oh yeah, he's gonna lose that.
Yeah, and props
Completely agree.
to Ross Marquand, because like this guy, like when he pulls his arm out, he just let it flop, and that did it for me. That was just like. I can't watch like ridiculousness and stuff where people get hurt and stuff like that, and like Lydia knows, like I like I'm just like
It's really funny. I do it to him on purpose sometimes.
like look at this, but yeah, like when that did it, like just like that little detail.
I felt like it was a little over the top to me because, like, not do we see his muscle and skin and blood vessels and everything that have to get ripped off for you to just see bone right there. We don't see it hanging on the log or anything like that. No, just like it's just gone, just evaporated. I don't know. I felt like it was
there
a
was
little
no blood
too much.
on the log.
Well, I mean, we didn't really see the log, so I get that. But at the same time, like, I felt like it was a little too much. Like, I felt like it would definitely break his arm and he would lose it anyway, but I felt like it was really dramatic.
Well, what I thought was dramatic is how quickly Enid decided she needed to chop off this arm. Like,
Well, you have to make, that's a quick decision you have to make in the apocalypse.
yeah. I mean, like, you know, but could she have like wrapped it up and just seen how it went? You know, like
I don't know. I think that they did a really good point of making, like, her telling the Oceanside lady, that I will get her name in a minute, telling her, like, hey, gangrene is a stupid way to die when all you have is a cut on your hand, how serious that can affect you.
Yeah, they probably don't
especially
have...
with a bug going around and just one of the
yeah.
neighboring communities. Like, that arm, he would have died. Like, there's no coming back from that. You don't do a skin graft. You don't, like, you don't do any of that. Like, you literally cut it off, you cauterize the wound, and you move on.
I could see like in a wartime situation, but I mean, it's not like they didn't have time to see if it was going to be okay. Like, wait a couple hours and see how it's
Can
doing.
you imagine how
feel
long it took
like-
them to carry him back to camp?
Yeah, it probably took, because it was like nighttime when they got there.
Yeah, that's true.
And then, like, she just, like, they unveiled it. She was like, oh, nope, you got to lose that. Sorry.
That's what I was like. She's leaning into this new job. Just like,
liked
ooh,
it.
this is going to be fun.
To me, it showed like a really decisive Enid. You know, like, I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that Enid has something to do now in the apocalypse. It's not like, oh, Carl's gone. We don't know what to do with her anymore.
Yeah. I agree.
So, yeah, she's fitting in very nicely. And poor Aaron, just, I mean, he's such a trooper, you know, and, you know.
He's such a nice person. He's even
Yeah.
like, he even told the girl who's about to chop his arm off, like, yeah, you can do it. You can chop that arm off.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, you can do it.
that
It's
is
like,
so,
oh, man.
like,
And then when Rick goes in and he has the moment where he says the same thing he said to the bicycle girl in episode 1. It's like, I'm so sorry this happened to you. That was a nice little callback. And Aaron's just like, you know, I would have done it again. It's just like, oh, this dude, man. He's like, he's like that golden friend that you just like, you don't want to lose that friend. So then Daryl beats the mess out of Justin again.
for good reason. I mean,
Yeah,
like, he just
absolutely.
walks out of there where Aaron had to lose his arm, and it's in direct causation of what Justin did.
Yeah,
it is 100%
yeah.
Justin's fault.
Yeah, and Justin ain't a bit sorry at all. Good Lord, that was
that
was extremely country.
Is your name Earl? Like, I mean, I feel like we should rename you.
Yeah, he's not sorry at all. He showed zero remorse for that, and he was just kind of like, "Hey, it was my fault. This thing." And Rick calls him out on it eventually, where he kind of mouths off to Rick, and Rick sends him back, and it's like, "I know you. I know people like you. You take zero responsibility for anything. It's always somebody else's fault."
Oh, he told him what he used to do, too. Forgot about that. He's like, I used to be a cop.
Yeah,
I
people
remember
like
guys like
you.
you. Yeah.
I really liked that because we really haven't heard Rick talk like that or talk about before the apocalypse or anything like that. I mean, did he even have a wife and kids before this happened? I'm really not sure. I don't remember. So I really did like that he brought that back up.
She forgot about him after like a month.
Oh,
True.
hey-o.
That is definitely Shane's baby. We won't get into that though.
And even though Judith is all he's got, he's still not like just like all over Judith.
No, like literally.
He's letting Michonne handle that.
It's literally like not either of the people who are raising that child's baby. Like Michonne is not her mother.
Mm-hmm.
Rick is not her father. Like
That's life in the apocalypse.
There's a baby on the side of the road. It's mine now.
Oh man, they're raising Judith. She's gonna be the new big bad because she's got all these issues.
she doesn't even know who her
I
parents
never knew
are
my father.
or her mom.
Yeah. All right.
We're just like waiting for you to find your notes.
We get on these rolls and then we just like awkwardly stop.
Well, we're looking for the next roll.
Yeah. So thank y'all for listening. Of course, we're still finding the format, so please stick around. We'll figure it out sooner or later. So yeah, he gets his arm cut off, and
Yeah, we're way past that.
yeah, I haven't scrolled down yet. So okay, yeah. So Maggie tells Michonne she's changed her mind. She's going to set up a council to decide what to do with Earl. She's decided to let Earl out on work release, and he's out
Which
there.
to me is a smart decision. Like, why wouldn't you have done that in the first place?
Yeah, exactly. That's like making license plates in prison. you get to do something that
Productive for
benefits.
society.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're not just sitting there and rotting. And really, that's what he wants to do. Like I think he's the type of guy. Like he wants to prove that he's sorry, that he's he can contribute.
But she's still probably really sore because, he tried, in her mind, I'm pretty sure she's like, you tried to take me away from my baby.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, no, I don't like you as a person at all.
Yeah.
Although the first thing she did was reveal who he was instead of go pick up her child. Like
Exactly.
he knocked
she
your
had to
child out of wherever you got that baby stroller from is nice, but
That's the apocalypse conditioning right there. She's got to remove the threat.
it felt very Scooby-Doo moment to me. Like, oh wow, like revealing the mask. Like,
Scoop.
oh my gosh, that was pretty close. That was good.
What?
So, oh, go ahead.
What was that? He just went scoop.
Zoinks.
Oh, that one wasn't as
Shaggy.
good.
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't. You shouldn't have redone it.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Let's move forward.
So yeah, and what like the whole time where the blacksmith is hitting Maggie, I'm just thinking like, have you ever like shook hands with a man that's just done hard work his whole life? It's just like shaking hands with a rock. Like this guy, like when he hit her, like it is like he hurt. I mean, this guy has got to be solid, So yeah,
I
it's
feel
just
like I don't really
couldn't-
remember that scene very well. Like, was he punching her in the face and stuff, or like what?
Yeah, I
happened?
mean, he
Yeah.
attacked her. Yeah.
I just to me, I don't know.
Yeah, that's
I'll have to
all I
rewatch
could think
that.
is just like, good God, I bet this man can just like knock somebody cold.
Well, she's not bruised up or anything. She's
Yeah,
got like a
she's-
cut on this. She's got a cut right here, and then
What?
she had a bruise in the first episode, which this is 35 days later. So
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
I guess that does make sense.
Yeah, but last
All
week
right,
when
I'm cool
she
with
sat
that.
down with Rick, she had like bruising all
Yay.
down her face.
I thought that was from her falling though. Like,
Oh no. Yeah,
right.
he messed her up. So yeah, okay. Rick apologized to Aaron, and then we get suddenly we're at youth camp all over again, church camp, and we've got some people hanging out in the woods and getting froggy, and and she lays it on him, and he lets her know that ain't no valve stopping him. I'm
Said I-
Episcopalian.
I am not Catholic.
Yep. So yeah, it's like summer camp all over again, and then Rick is at the watching everybody kumbaya around the bonfire, and and then Carol and Ezekiel get engaged. Like she asks him for the ring. You still got that ring? And she's gonna wear it, and he's like, she doesn't want the pomp and circumstance though. Like I think she's trying to change that man. But the look on your face right now, like you are so over this.
I am.
Ezekiel and Carol are adorable.
They're growing on
They're
me.
good for each other.
They're growing on me, but there's just I'm still holding out hope for Carol and Daryl. Like I'm still sore over all of it.
Well, I don't want to ruin anything for you, but if you've read the comics, just wait a little bit.
Daryl's not even in the comics.
I'm not talking about Daryl.
No, it's not about Ezekiel.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he does.
Spoiler alert. Yeah. Yeah. In a not very nice way. Which it's like the better a character is, the more gruesome their death has to be. Mm-hmm. So Rick better go out with like zombie fireworks or something.
Zombie
If he
fire.
dies.
Yeah, like an explosion and just like zombie mouths flying at him. That's how he gets bitten. It's just like all over there. I don't know. It's just something crazy and just ridiculous has to happen if he goes out like that.
Or he could die like Shane.
Oh my gosh. Carl?
That's really awkward.
Zombie Carl. Oh my gosh, he's been keeping Carl in a fish tank like the governor.
Oh my gosh. Well, didn't the governor keep his daughter?
He did.
He did, yeah.
So it wouldn't even be
That
a fish
was-
tank. It'd just be in a closet.
Yeah, you're right. I
Super
forgot about that.
creepy.
Yeah.
That would be
Anyway.
creepy. Yeah, so Carol wants the ring, and then so then we cut to Rick finishes bragging to Negan, and she's like, "We didn't need you. Everybody was alive and doing well, and all this kind of stuff," and just like really laying it on thick and feeling good about himself. And Negan just like cuts him to the quick, and I feel like this is the way Negan should have been written from the beginning. It's like not necessarily. I mean, yeah, some of the showmanship and all this stuff, but just knows how to push Rick's buttons. It was like, oh, you're just building it for me, and all this stuff is you're not building the future. It's just a memorial to the dead. And he's like, who are you building it for, Carl? He's like, you don't get to say his name. Yeah, that was pretty nice.
Yeah, and then Negan just said that one line, like, you're just getting it ready for me. Mm-hmm. Don't see his face, you just see his eyes. You know he has this really long, scruffy beard. Hear that raspiness in his voice because he has a whole throat cut now, but...
Mm-hmm.
It was like that before.
I kind of enjoyed
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yeah. I like the raspiness, though. It's leaning into it a little bit, I think. But maybe I'm just noticing it more now.
We all
Could
like
be.
it.
Could be.
Yeah.
I do want to point something out about that scene. I mean, throughout that, every time we're hearing Rick talk to Negan, we never really see either one of their faces until the end where we're really discussing the future. And the entire scene where we are watching Rick, a portion of his face is lit and the other portion is not. And to me, Rick is still going through an internal battle about the choices that he makes and whether those are good choices or bad choices. And I felt like it was a really great way to shoot the scene and just really kind of tie it all together with this is still a battle of good and evil. Mm-hmm. This is what this reality for them is about. It's less about... I mean, it's a zombie show. That's what it is. But it's really about the internal struggles that people deal with. Mm-hmm. And I really did enjoy that. That's kind of the way that they ended it.
Yeah. And in a way that didn't feel too soap opera-y. Soap opera-y.
Yeah, that was to me the least soap opera-y season. Okay, now he transferred it to me. Scene. No, too far.
Blah, blah. Anyways.
Yeah, the least amount in that scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really enjoyed. I think they need to get back to that, and I think they're still finding their pacing too, figuring things out, like what works and what doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So hopefully they get away from the soap opera type stuff where it's just like, I mean, yeah, we enjoy seeing conflict between people and the effects of different things and all this trauma that they've gone through, but like you said, it's the delivery, mm-hmm. You know, where it's not like this dreamy daytime soap opera camera that, you know, we're looking at or whatever. Mm-hmm. So then we see Anne up in the watchtower with some afterglow. And I just got my hand over my mouth again. And she sees the helicopter up in the sky. And she knows about the helicopter. We know about that from last season when she was planning to go. Like, they spent a whole episode of her, like, getting ready to go on the helicopter wherever it might be. Whether it's Georgie and her crew or some third party, it's obviously not the
actual
Whisperers.
U.S. government.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, they're not in the picture, so I mean, Abraham was what was left of them.
Yeah, and she's apparently been to DC, as a teacher or whatever. So maybe she's, still not quite, or she's obviously still got secrets. And she even like, she's putting it out there, like, just like telling Gabriel, it's like, I got secrets, but don't ask. It's like the worst secret keeper ever. It's like when you get a secret and you got to go tell your brothers and sisters, I got a secret, but you can't tell. Yeah, I can't tell you. You can't ask me what it is. Like,
Well, I don't know. I felt like I actually kind of liked that part because it was very like, hey, I'm willing to tell you my past, but there's stuff that you don't get to know. Like there are things that, like, while we might be messing around in the apocalypse, like, don't for 1 second think that
Pookie.
this is like, don't think that this is something that it's not. Like, we're not gonna share every portion of our hearts with each other. Like, we're getting through the apocalypse the best way
Yeah.
we know how. You don't get to know what I've done.
I could see that. Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah.
And that was the only part of that scene that I liked. The rest of it was ridiculous.
Yeah. She was there something you were going to say? Huh?
I said pun intended. Ridiculous.
I missed it.
That scene was ridiculous.
Oh my gosh.
You made
Wow,
me
I'm
say it
slow.
so many times.
I'm so slow. Anyways,
Sorry.
yeah, we're 12 years old. So yeah, she sees the helicopter, but she doesn't look too happy to see it. She kind of looks worried. That very ominous scene. Then of course, the very end, they showed Justin walking home in the dark because
Walking home?
going back to the sanctuary.
Or wherever.
Yeah,
I didn't think he
Rick
was going to
sent
the
him home.
sanctuary. I thought he was just gone.
Well, Rick told him go home, and he said, "I won't wait till the morning. I'm going tonight." So I assumed he was going back to the sanctuary.
Did he tell him go home or did he say get out of here?
Well, he told him to leave.
Yeah.
I would assume that, like, that's exile to me. Like, you're not a part of any group.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Because he said if I see you again, I'll do something that Stitches can't fix.
Yeah. So to me,
Yeah.
like, he's out of there.
Yeah,
Pack your stuff and get out of here.
I enjoyed that scene with Rick.
Yeah.
And just to say that again, but yeah. So Justin's walking wherever and is ambushed by someone he obviously seems to know. He's like, "Oh, it's just you. You almost got killed." Whoop! He just got, it's like Scooby Doo snatched. Just like,
I thought it was like very Kane off the stage, like they
like
just,
the Apollo, just like whoop.
yeah, that's kind of how I felt.
Yeah. All right.
Felt
So
like
that
he did.
What?
Felt like he did.
I don't
He's
think so. Like I think that's probably the other saviors that disappeared and the because the Whisperers are so anti-establishment and everything. I think the saviors are very susceptible to join in ranks with them right now, and that's where they're going.
Maybe.
So let's see. There was a couple of discussion notes. Aaron. Last episode, he said something to Jesus about going and taking bow staff lessons, and he's probably not
He
gonna.
could do a one-armed.
Yeah, he could. He'd have to be really. That would be
Well,
actually
you can get
pretty
like
cool.
a little baton.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
could get a
So-
short
yeah.
one.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he could figure out something. Maybe he'd get like a little hook, like Merle had or something.
Ugh. No,
What?
Aaron, please do not do that. Ross Marquand, don't.
Well, didn't Rick in the comics have like a little hook or something too?
Yeah, he did.
Where they keep getting all these?
Scrap metal?
They're going to like
Is it the end of a hanger?
The
Like, what
clinic.
are they doing?
they're going to the clinic and picking up all these prostheses.
Yeah, because that hasn't been robbed already.
Maybe
Who's
not.
gonna take prosthetics?
Yeah, exactly.
Probably a lot of people are losing limbs in the apocalypse.
Rocket Raccoon.
Ah, funny. Not that
I
funny.
need that eye. But anyway, so yeah, that leads to another question: is Aaron potentially going to take up the story of Comic Book Rick? Because there's a lot more story for Comic Book Rick, but of course, Andrew Lincoln is leaving, and Ross has just like this big, beautiful beard that's obviously groomed for the apocalypse, and he's looking a lot like Comic Book Rick, and now he's lost his arm, so it's I want to say it's the same arm, the same hand.
It's the same.
To me, that would make him one of the most interesting character arcs because he is so opposite. He's such a nice person that like to watch him go to the dark side would be extreme, and it would be extremely interesting.
Yeah, and everything that he's been through, he's never stooped that low. You know, with losing people he loves and people he's close to, his community, is all this stuff.
Losing appendages.
Yeah, well, I mean, if he goes dark because he loses his arm, I think that would make him seem like a very selfish person because
I'm saying like all of this stuff compiled. I'm saying like one more thing, like
I could see that. I could
like the
see
straw that breaks the camel's back because he's
that would
obviously
make
not
more
upset
sense.
over this.
Yeah,
I'm just saying like to pile on the things. I was making sure you didn't miss any.
Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying is, if like the loss of his lover didn't affect him so deeply, but this does, that kind of makes him like where you know what I mean. It makes it questionable to me, you know.
Well, I'm not saying that.
Or he could just be at a point where it's like, I'm not finna lose anything else, like another arm. I'm not finna lose Grace. I'm just not losing anything else. So everybody messes with me, gotta die.
Yeah, he goes ham like Rick. He goes on like Rick, like the Ricktatorship type thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he could take that up, but yeah, I think it would still take a lot of character development to get him to that point. Just like making Daryl a leader would take a lot of character development, and I think adding Grace to the mix would help push him in that direction. But
it'll be interesting to see where they go with him.
Mm-hmm.
But if he gets a hook, I wouldn't be upset.
yeah, he's got to have something. I mean, you got to change a diaper.
Can't run around with little Nubbly.
Yeah.
So are the other people in the, like, all of the saviors are running, like, we saw that so foreshadowed in the episode where every time somebody turns around, that person doesn't have an arm or a hand. We see it where Eugene sees the guy with no fingers, and then the lady dishing out soup has
That's
no
true.
hand. Like, I saw that coming a mile away. Like,
Well, I thought that was because of the guns that Eugene
did.
fixed at the end of last season.
oh, straight up.
And that's why he kind of looked guilty, you know, when he saw that. He's like, oh, yeah, I did
Yeah, I
that.
did not think that. I thought it was like kind of iron to the face, like cutting off hands type thing.
No, what? I don't think it got that bad.
Yeah, I don't think Negan did that, but...
My
yeah.
bad.
Oh, yeah.
So, next week, the teasers for next week look pretty intense. And it looks like it just hits the fan. And all hell breaks loose between the Saviors and the rest of the groups. And you got Carol pulling a gun and people challenging her, guy with the thing in his mouth, of course, because Justin's not there anymore. He's in command now of the rebel uprising. And challenging Carol to pull the gun and all this kind of stuff. And they go to get an axe. And it just looks nuts. So I can't wait to see what happens on the next episode. Things are getting intense. I think this season is a lot better than it has been, where things are happening and they're still able to build story and build character and all that kind of stuff. So, any last thoughts?
In the trailer that I saw, it looked like they're gonna kind of jump onto that Maggie and Daryl. We're gonna take out Rick storyline a little bit. I saw them just walking down the road with Maggie just had like a knife or an axe in her hand. Something. So.
And it looked like when she pulled up with the other Asian guy, it looked like that was, and then they meet the Saviors. That was kind of like the meeting where they're trading off the food or whatever is the way I took it. But I forgot about that scene too. I don't know if that's connected or not. But anyways, thank you guys for listening. This has been The Broken Dead. Appreciate you guys watching on YouTube or Facebook or wherever this has been uploaded to. And also, if you get tired of looking at our stinking faces, you can always listen in podcast form, and you can find those just about anywhere podcasts are available. So also find us, join the conversation on the website. That's www.broken.picturesno.com, and find us on social media on Facebook, Broken Pictures Social, and then on Instagram and Twitter at broken_social. And of course, if you feel like you want to add a little change to our coffers, you can go to Patreon Broken Pictures. And so this is Dylan.
And I'm Lydia.
It's Quin.
Thank you, Quin. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Peace.